What's up guys, we are Tottenham TV here with 2019 about to draw to a close. Here is our worst moment of 2019, and because it was a pretty bad year for 2019 for Spurs, there's a lot of moments to go through. We had to really choose our moments, but here's our top 5 worst moments of 2019. We'll start off with number 5. Kieran Trippier's own goal away at Chelsea at Stamford Bridge back in March. We were chasing down, we were trying to consolidate our top 4 position at the time. We went away to Chelsea with Chelsea in quite bad form, and we were in decent form at the time. But what was to embark, we were at the beginning of what was a disastrous away record, and that was compounded by Chelsea taking a 1-0 lead in the second half thanks to a Pedro goal where we've passed a couple of players. But what was to happen in the second half was one of the most comical own goals we're ever likely to see at a Premier League ground. A long ball played over the top by the Chelsea keeper, runs through to Kieran Trippier, who all he has to do was either clear the ball or just have a look up and see where Lloris is. He doesn't notice that Lloris is charging at his goal, and he decides to pass back into the goal where he doesn't know that Lloris is vacated, and what he does is he passes it into the empty net and he scores an own goal to put Chelsea 2-0 up, and they end up winning the game 2-0. And we end up just about scraping top 4, but an awful moment for Kieran Trippier, and it was one of the moments where we probably thought he needs to move on in the summer.
Yeah, it was like there was a feeling of Kieran Trippier before that game even that it was time to move on, you know, with performances up at City where he got completely terrorised, or whenever he comes up against a pacey winger, to be honest, that he seemed to get found out. But in this game, when he scored that goal, I think the Tottenham fans just said enough is enough, really.
That was it for him.
And I don't think he could ever get them back on side until he left.
Yeah, and it was it's one for the Christmas DVDs, that one really is. It's such a comical own goal with embarrassing
Halloween DVDs.
Yeah, Halloween, you're right. It was a proper comical, disastrous moment from Spurs, and it was also partly Lloris's fault for not coming out and giving a shout, but Trippier, you've got to look up, you've got to see where your keeper is. Complete lack of communication, and it just summed up Spurs away from home that season.
Agreed. Moving on to number 4, we are going for one of the latter games in Pochettino's career. We lost 3-0 at AMEX Stadium against Brighton, which started off with Hugo Lloris dislocating his shoulder, still out injured now. We were sitting in the front row that day, and you could hear Lloris's screams. It was awful. And then that was just topped off by a completely spineless and gutless performance on the pitch, which saw us lose 3-0 to Brighton,
who were in bad form at the time.
Yeah, which was one nail into Pochettino's coffin, to be honest.
It was, yeah. That was the game where I really started to think maybe we do need a change, because it was so bad that day. Playing against a Brighton side who were near the relegation zone, not in any sort of great form, albeit they had some good performances, but we were absolutely annihilated by that Brighton team, and Ndombele was hauled off at half time because he couldn't hack the pace of that game, and we were so bad in that game against Brighton that it was just, you had to question where we were going that season. And in a game where you thought maybe we could start turning things around with a win, it was one of those that confirmed that Pochettino was in his final days as Tottenham manager. And to get battered 3-0 as well, and the scoreline actually flattered us that day to lose 3-0. It was a very, very worrying day, and it was one of the worst of the year. Yeah,
I agree, it was a very sad day. But moving on to number 3, we are going for losing 7-2 at home to Bayern Munich in another one of the Poch's, another one that put another nail in his coffin, to be honest. And I think what made it of that magnitude as well is that we had just moved into the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and already we'd had a bigger defeat than we ever did in the White Hart Lane.
Yeah, it was a shambles, that game, and it was actually annoying because we started the game quite well.
Ndombele looked on fire in the first 20 minutes.
1-0 up. Heung-min Son was running the Bayern defence ragged. We looked like
the fans were really up for it as well.
We were up for it. We looked like we could actually do something this game, and all of a sudden, we conceded 2 late goals in the first half, undeservedly. And you're thinking, okay, we're 2-1 down at half time, but we're still in this game, we're looking good. But what happened in the second half was something of epic proportions.
What happened in that second half was inexcusable from all the players on the pitch, to be honest. They all let the club down, they all let Pochettino down, and they all let themselves down. It's
Serge Gnabry scoring 4 goals, a former Gooner tearing Tottenham to shreds in that second half, and almost as if every single Bayern Munich shot they had in that second half went in. Absolutely clinical finishing from them. There was really a masterclass in finishing from Gnabry and Lewandowski.
Yeah.
We couldn't get anywhere near them, and we conceded 7 goals at home to Bayern Munich, and it was absolutely embarrassing display, embarrassing result. And to see us concede that many goals when we're supposed to be challenging in these kind of games after getting to the final of the Champions League the year before was a real reality check for us this season.
Yeah, which brings us on to number 2. It's going to be when Pochettino got sacked as Tottenham Hotspur manager just at the end of an international break, with Jose Mourinho being announced the next morning at 6:30 in the morning. So the Tottenham team were busy early in the morning. But the Pochettino sacking kind of was at the end of a year pretty much of not winning away from home, a host of awful results at the back end of his career. You know, we've just spoken about 2 of them, but there were quite a few more as well. It was a sacking that upsetted a lot of Tottenham fans, including me and my brother. It was a sacking of a man who knew what it meant to be a Tottenham manager, who kind of brought us all in, showed us what heights we can reach, you know, take us to a Champions League final, getting us consistently above Arsenal, getting us consistently in the top 4. It was just very hard to take, seeing someone that we all love so much being pushed out the club, but probably was the right decision in hindsight. But yeah, it was just a very sad moment.
It was a definitely low point of the year for sure, sacking Pochettino. I don't think anyone wanted him to be sacked, including us. Even now, there's still a twinge of disappointment whenever I think about Pochettino getting the sack. You know, a big part of me think, given the difficulties that Jose's had a good start, obviously, but there's still clear problems in the squad that haven't been rectified just yet, with a lot of players in the back 4 especially. And it just goes to show that the Pochettino wasn't the only problem at Tottenham that led to his sacking. The fact that he wasn't back in previous windows, and the fact that he's been managing with 2 hands behind his back contributed to the decline of the team. The fact that we still have a lot of the same players we had when he first took over was definitely to the detriment of the team, and it wasn't totally his fault. And it's just a shame it had to end the way it ended. Hopefully one day he comes back to Tottenham. I hope in the future, when we have more funds at his disposal. But we have to wait and see what the future holds. But it was definitely a dark day when Pochettino was sacked, and we had to look for a new manager, because he'd given us 5 amazing years of service to the club, and we thanked him very, very much for how he conducted himself and how he managed the team, and anything good we have now is because of him.
Yeah, agreed. Which brings us on to the worst moment of 2019, a moment where me and my brother got memed the hell out of. It is in the 2nd minute of the Champions League final. Sissoko, the ball striking Sissoko's armpit, and basically the 2-minute Champions League final where the ref pointed to the spot. Liverpool's tucked away their penalty, and Spurs go 1-0 down in the Champions League final after 2 minutes and didn't recover from that, really.
I'm still bitter from it. I'm still bitter about it. How VAR didn't overturn it. It was absolutely never a penalty. How the referee gave a penalty in that 2nd minute against us completely ruined the Champions League final against the meanest defence in the league at the time, one of the best teams in Europe. Obviously giving them a 1-0 head start was never going to be ideal, and so it proved. Liverpool shut up shop. It was a pretty lethargic, quite a pretty low-key final at the end of the day. No team really landed any blows.
I think it was the worst Champions League final I've ever seen, and you know, people were talking about that. It was about a month after the season had finished, so that was a reason for it. But
probably in the heat as well didn't help.
Yeah, it was very hot, but you know what? There's no excuse to play like that in the Champions League final from us or Liverpool. Liverpool were just lucky that they got the win, basically. Because I think they were poor, we were poor. It was just a poor final.
They're lucky they got the 1-0 head start due to an absolute bullshit penalty, which the referee gave. Sissoko had his arm out, trying to signal to a player to a few instructions. The referee took it as if he was sticking his hand out to block a cross. It didn't even hit his arm, even though it hit like his under here. And not only that, it hit hit the side of his body onto his arm, so it was a double hit first of all, which clearly rules state that if it hits one part of your body onto your arm, then it's not a penalty. Very frustrating still bitter about it.
For that to happen in a Champions League final, in the day of VAR as well.
In the second minute as well. Shame on you, referees. That was the worst moment of 2019 for me as a Spurs fan, and I think it was the worst moment for Spurs in 2019. After all the hard work we had put in to get to the final, all the games we'd gone through, the Nou Camp, we've gone through Man City, VAR situation, we've gone through Ajax, all that battling,
on the brink of going out so many times,
and to have it all ruined after 20 seconds even of the Champions League final, and to be memed as well to top it all off. That was our worst moment of 2019. That was our worst moment of 2019. Let us know in the comments below. Did we miss any bad moments? What were your worst moments of 2019? Like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. And as always, come on you Spurs.